Have you ever wondered why leading men used to look so different from how they do now? Just compare the movie stars of 2026 to the stars of 1946, and the difference will be immediately noticeable. Partially, it's because we use sunscreen now. But there's another reason. There's something that's happened in American culture that has changed what we expect from our leading men, and it's happened more than once. Hi, my name is Tim, I write for television, and this is the final week of Manuary, where I talk about dudes. Today, I will be answering the question, why is Timothee Chalamet? Before we start, I'm going to wait a minute while y'all hit the subscribe button. Good? Alright, let's go back 80 years to begin our journey into what we accept as a leading man. It's 1946, and the biggest actors of the year are Cary Grant, age 42, Humphrey Bogart, 47, Gary Cooper, 45, Bing Crosby, 43, and Joseph Cotten, 41. Jimmy Stewart is kicking around at the age of 38, but his movie It's a Wonderful Life is a critical and commercial failure, a movie so unloved that the studio would forget to renew the rights in 1974, causing the film to enter public domain, which is why it has become such a television staple. Anyway, back to 1946. Do we think it's strange that every leading man was in their 40s? It's not a fluke of the year. It was the same story in 1948, 1950, 1952. What gives? Well, a very particular thing was happening in America in the late 1940s. World War II. The most popular war America has ever fought. A war that dominated culture and redefined America's role in the world for decades. Men who did not fight in the war were seen as cowards and were shunned by society. Which means if you went to see a movie in 1946 and you saw a 24-year-old on the screen, you would have to ask the question, why aren't you fighting in the war? Even if you're watching a war movie, the question remained, why are these boys pretending to fight when they should be fighting for real? And when the war ended, this trend did not immediately die. Bogart, Grant, and Stewart continued to embody what a leading man was supposed to look like, because an older man was a man who had served his country. He was a hard man, and that was the American ideal at the time. We could not admire or respect a boy. A boy was someone who had not yet sacrificed for his country. Flash forward to 1956, one of the biggest movies in America is Giant. It stars Rock Hudson and James Dean. They are both in their 20s. The post-war years have brought prosperity and peace to America, and our obsession with men in their 40s has started to wane. Boys are allowed on screen for the first time in a decade, and this trend continues. Marlon Brando, Paul Newman, Peter O'Toole, the first golden age for baby-faced leading men. Now, this isn't to say that the boys are the only ones starring in big pictures. Older men, many of them holdovers from the 40s and 50s, are still kicking around well into the late 60s, but they are competing with soft little babies like Dustin Hoffman. And then, wouldn't you know it, something happens in the 1970s. Leading men are getting crustier. Charles Bronson, Steve McQueen, Robert Redford, Clint. The new young crop of actors, they're all in their 30s. De Niro, Pacino, and the like, and they don't look like boys, they look haunted and sometimes demented. Baby faces have fled the screen. What happened? Oh right, another war, and a big one, a nasty one. This time there's less stigma for not fighting than there was in World War II, but American culture shifts regardless. We lose our taste for boys. We want receding hairlines and mustaches. So it's no boys allowed for the rest of the 70s. The boys from the 60s, they can hang, but that's just because they got in before the Iron Curtain dropped and the sign was put up that said no boys allowed. And then we have the 1980s. War is over, greed is good. The sign that says you must be this tall to get on the leading man ride has been removed. Hello Brat Pack, Emilio Estevez, Tom Cruise, hello Michael J. Fox, hello Charlie Sheen, it's boys o'clock. Get on in here. And of course, the great 1980s boys flood doesn't stop there. It becomes a boys tidal wave by the 1990s. Keanu and Leo, Will Smith, Johnny Depp, Boy bands arrive on the scene in the 90s. Culture is completely dominated by baby-faced softies, and it's glorious. Teenagers become the most powerful cultural force in human history. At every showing of Titanic or Lord of the Rings, another 13-year-old realizes they might not be straight. And then it all comes crashing down. 9/11 happens, and everyone quietly admits the party is over. It's time for more war. Now, it takes a little while for entertainment to shift. Production takes time, and there's a brief phase where we try to pretend our empire isn't collapsing. We don't start seeing true post-9/11 entertainment until around 2004. By 2005, it's pretty obvious. The boys are no longer welcome. If you were a boy in the 90s, you better age rapidly if you want to stay a movie star. Interestingly, The Departed marks the transition from boys to men for both Leonardo DiCaprio and Matt Damon. Johnny Depp tries to hide his youth beneath makeup. George Clooney and Robert Downey Jr. become the highest paid leading men in Hollywood. Liam Neeson is re-christened an action star. Hugh Jackman is the sexiest man alive. The golden age of prestige television reaches its peak, featuring a handful of complicated men in their 40s. A show about how you should not want to be Don Draper makes everyone want to be Don Draper. But something interesting happens in the midst of all this. The boys creep back in while no one is looking. Shia LaBeouf and Robert Pattinson pry open the window. The boys still aren't allowed anywhere near the Oscars, but they are in bankable movies. They are a commercial draw, if not a critical one. At this point, it's worth mentioning that the Iraq War is deeply unpopular. The image of the American veteran has lost some of its cultural cachet. It's hard to believe that what's going on in the desert has anything to do with American safety. Now it's 2011, and the biggest movies of the year star Daniel Radcliffe, Shia LaBeouf, and Robert Pattinson. The Iraq War is clearly over. We're still kicking around in Afghanistan, but it's a low-intensity affair, and it doesn't dominate American culture. And for the next decade, the boys reassert their dominance. A billion YA movies get made. Every casting call is for a Miles Teller type or a Michael B. Jordan type. By 2014, we're giving boys Oscars. And by the 2020s, we have entered Twink Valhalla. So what can we learn here? First, it seems as if our interest in teen heartthrobs wax and wanes as America engages in war. In peacetime, we love skinny little waifs. In wartime, we love men with facial hair and wrinkles. It makes sense in a few ways. On the one hand, if the war is popular, we like men who have fought in the war, and war ages you. On the other hand, I think there's something more tragic at play. I think we as a nation understand that whenever we go to war, we are sacrificing our sons. We are signing up to kill huge swaths of 20-year-old boys. And I think it becomes necessary as a nation to look away, to hide our boys as to not be reminded of what we are doing to them. I know that the topic of masculinity is deeply steeped in politics right now, and a lot of people are going to tell you that the ideal man should act like this or like that, but I want to tell you that the ideal man has changed several times in just our short national history, and it will change several times again. There's no right way to be a man, which is why I'm happy when I see smooth-faced boys on the big screen or on a magazine cover, because it means they aren't dying in a desert somewhere, crying out for their mother. Thank you for watching. This is the last week of Manuary. I'm gonna go shave now.